Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, not all things are forgiven. Part 3 on our series on the myths and material facts of bankruptcy with attorney Mallory Powers. Mallory, I'm going, all things are not forgiven. Wow.
Right.
Now we did touch on some of this before, but I kind of want to expand because you must have said, and I think you're just one of the most opining attorneys I've ever met in this area, that were like, it's not dischargeable, but maybe it is. You keep with these little, you have little exits and so forth. So let's talk about this. The first one, and these are brutal. You have a separation of family. Mm-hmm. So you've already paid divorce attorneys, right?
Right.
Now I'm walking in with half my net worth, cash, whatever, and now we're talking about spousal support and child support, which most of the time, all the time, is it dischargeable?
Those are not dischargeable.
Wow. So it's tough.
You can't get out of those unless the only way you can get out of it is you go back into family court and modify the court order and then work it out that way. But bankruptcy can help you in the respect that maybe you can get caught up. You can discharge any other debt, maybe credit card debt or medical bills. Discharge those, get rid of those, and then focus solely on your spousal support and child support.
Now, on the spousal support, in your practice, is this a forever deal till 65? I mean, how long do I have to pay spousal support?
That's all in family court, and it depends on so many different factors. You know, how long the marriage was, whether both spouses worked or didn't work, and what they brought, what their education potential is or work potential is. There's so many things that go into that.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of human value equation here.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, child support, 18?
Yep, usually that's 18.
Okay, so you could have a support. I mean, have you seen spousal support that's like, I'm still paying into my 50s and 60s?
We've seen spousal support, yes. Child support can even go until, if you expect your children to go to college. They might put in some kind of clarification or provision for that where they say, well, you need to also pay for their living expenses for the 4 years that they're in college.
Okay, so now here's what I heard you say because I want to make sure I'm understanding it. I have a list of dischargeable debt that's over on this side, but I also have a list of things that are highly questionable, probably not dischargeable. So by freeing up, getting out of these commitments and obligations, I can take care of the things that I can't get out of.
Right.
Okay,
exactly.
That's what I'm hearing you say. And now are you yourself helping them plan, as an attorney now, I know you do the legal side, do you help them do the planning side and the financial issues on this?
I do.
Wow.
Part of filing a bankruptcy petition is creating a budget. So you're saying, okay, well, these are the reasonable expenses that a trustee will allow you to have. And based on this and based on your net income, you have this much disposable income that could help you pay these types of things, taxes or domestic support obligations, where you can then get caught up on them. And
you're drawing up a budget.
Right.
How many people that you draw up a budget for, this is the first time they've ever had a budget in their life?
Most of the time, that's the case.
Unbelievable. All right, now Chapter 13, now you kind of use this as a, hey, if you've fallen behind, this is a good place to catch up. I can get rid of the things that are dischargeable and then focus on these things like spousal support, child support. I could get that, kind of get caught up and then get on the ongoing monthly payments. That's good. Uncle Sam, though, is he as benevolent as am I going to bankruptcy court and I owe 50, 100K, and I see these commercials on television that talk about this, we'll get you out of it or get you some of it off or whatever. Do you deal with a lot of Uncle Sam's IOUs?
We do. And surprisingly, the IRS and the state tax departments are more reasonable than people think. So sometimes if it doesn't even work in bankruptcy, we'll say, go to them and see if they'll get you on a reasonable payment plan. And if that doesn't work, then we look at bankruptcy and we say, okay, some of this might actually be dischargeable in bankruptcy. So we have to...
Taxes due.
Right.
Wow.
And it just depends on how old they are, whether tax returns were filed, whether the IRS assessed those returns, and it has to fall into all of the timeframes that they provide. And if it falls into those, then it's likely dischargeable. And you don't even have to do anything to get that discharge. You just file the bankruptcy and they submit their proof of claim and they'll list it as unsecured and it'll be discharged.
Well, I love that. Now I'm reading I think I'm reading your rules of engagement here. Taxes are due more than 3 years ago or filed at least 2 years ago or assessed more than 8 months ago could be discharged.
Right.
So this matters how long you've been carrying it.
Mm-hmm.
So this could, I guess if the number was big enough, I guess you should look at it. But this blows my mind that you can actually get the IRS off your back.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's huge. All right, now, is it worth, I asked this question, if you have large debt, let's say you have your net debt, but I still have IRS to deal with, to find out what does it take how long does it take to do a summary to tell a client, this is, I would, in my view, if I was in your shoes, I would discharge this. I go after the taxes here. I'd treat the alimony differently. I'd try to, how do you have to walk them through in a counseling session on what you should do to get the best, if you're going to file, to really get the best position in the filing?
Right. So I usually get a financial worksheet from clients where I ask all sorts of questions and get all these kind of numbers. I need pay stubs. I need tax returns. If we're specifically looking at taxes, I'll ask them to get a tax transcript from the IRS, which is really easy to get online. And that will tell me the exact things I need to know. It'll tell me when the tax return was filed, when it was assessed, when they were due, how much is owed, how much is penalties or late fees. That'll give me all the information I need. And then I need to analyze the situation. And it really doesn't take that long for me to do an analysis, but it's really getting all the information.
Really, you're getting probably more information than 90% of the advisors watching this show. I mean, from a client point of view. Now, I've noticed, and this is the big one here, I mean, like student loans. Now, we're sitting at, I think I mentioned in the first segment, 1.1 trillion with a T. The student loans that have not been paid. And, when Hillary was running for president, she was trying to do something like, hey, see if we can get this forgiven or work it out or whatever. But it hasn't happened yet. So this is not dischargeable. Kind of. Now, this is what I hear you say. So kind of give me the yin and yang of, yes, it's not dischargeable, but there might be some exceptions to the rule.
Right. So generally, student loans are not dischargeable, but there are exceptions, but it's hard to prove. That's where it comes into play. So you have to file an adversary proceeding in a bankruptcy, which is basically filing a lawsuit against your student loan carriers to say, I'm going to discharge these in bankruptcy. So there's this big extra step that needs to happen. And then through that lawsuit in bankruptcy, you have to prove that there's an undue hardship that will exist beyond the bankruptcy. So by saying, okay, I'm getting rid of all this other debt, I'm still not going to be able to pay the student loans because my expenses are higher than my income. So it's very difficult. It's in most cases, if you have a job of any kind, you're making any income, it's going to be really difficult to say you can't do it. And discharge your student loans. But there are instances where people can do it. Now,
do you mean all of it or part of it?
Most of the time you're asking for all of it, but a judge might look at the situation and say, this you might be able to pay a little bit. So we'll give you a partial discharge, but you still need to pay this amount, and which is still better than paying all of it. So it's worth a try.
So it's still beneficial to I guess is when you start adding on these ancillary, because it sounds like it costs the attorney more time to work with these sideshows like student loan debt, taxes, which are not traditionally in the bankruptcy on the other side of the fence. You're just discharging obligations you get out of. Now that cost is that becoming now another cost for bankruptcy? I'm adding the student loan. I'm adding the tax management issues.
Yeah. Most attorneys won't include student loan discharge as part of their flat fee when you're just filing a bankruptcy petition. So it will cost you more money, but you have to think how much you spend to get out of how much debt.
Well, the only one I know of, if I have $32,000 of student debt, I know this person, and they went through bankruptcy and they got something off. I don't know what it was. It was apparently enough that they felt like they could breathe every month. So they had something, and they said that they have to pay more money because that's not part of the traditional filing. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, would I ever consider 13 when I'm dealing with this? Is so much that this is unforgivable. It's non-forgivable things we're talking about. Is 13 do anything to reconcile that or not really?
Yeah, I mean, back to student loans. A lot of people will get on income-based repayment plans. But if your income is high and your income-based repayment plan is too high for you, you might consider Chapter 13, and maybe you'll be able to work out a better payment plan. So it's reorganizing again and then figuring out how much goes to student loans, how much goes to any other creditors that are there.
Is it more expensive from an illegal point of view to file 13 because there's a little more organization, a little more math going on here?
It is usually more expensive.
Okay, so do you have a demarcation line in your head when you sit in front of a client and said, I've looked at your situation, I've put everything on the table, I think 13 would be a better deal for you rather than doing a 7?
Yeah, we weigh all the options, and I usually give people every option and every result. So it really comes down to, what are you looking for? You know, I recently had a client who did have tax debt, but they didn't want to be in a plan for 5 years and pay it back. They wanted to work with the IRS outside of bankruptcy. So we filed a Chapter 7, and then they're stuck with the tax debt, but they're going to work with the IRS on their own. So there's different ways that you can go. And we work with people to review those options.
Well, a lot of options here, and really you need to think it out and have an attorney that really works in bankruptcy. Don't forget to watch our next segment on creditor harassment and credit scoring, part 4 in our series on the myths and material facts of bankruptcy. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or your financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.